Hi again, everybody. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance. In this resistance video, sponsored by contribution from Dawn. And here's her story. Hey, Ollie, I have a question regarding covert narcs. I honestly thought my childhood was pretty good, and my three sisters and I worshipped the ground our mother walked on. It was only after I got into therapy did I learn about narcissism. I had my therapist read some email interactions with my mom that to me were extremely frustrating, which was how I learned the term gaslighting as well as narcissism. You know, I always worry. My mother used to use that term to describe how other children talked about their mothers. Oh, so and so they worship the ground their mother walks on. Your friend worships the ground their mother walks on. I remember when I was a kid, I had, and this is a weird place to go, but fuck it. When I was a kid, I had in 6th grade, and then in, I think it was my freshman year of high school. 6th grade, the girl down the street who I was friends with, my parents were friends with, mother died. So I was 10, 11 at that point, dealing with my first funeral and all. And I didn't cry, nothing like that, you know. And my mother said to me, like, why didn't you cry? Like, everybody's worshiping the ground she walks on. You see that? You wouldn't cry over me. I'm like, no, because I hate you. But I didn't understand the point of crying over anything at that point. I just never have cried at a funeral. And then my friend Frankie's mom died my freshman year. That was a huge funeral. My mother, again, was like all the people crying over her. Everybody worshipped the ground she walked on. You see how our kids worship the ground. You wouldn't cry at my... No, because I hate you. So it's always a flag when I hear that, like worshiping the ground your mother walks on. What does that even mean? Why? My research began and the answer was there finally. We always knew something was not quite right with our mom but couldn't put our finger on it. We call it stubbornness. My mother played the role of the perfect mother. She was immaculately clean, always cooked good, nutritious meals, and she was a great caretaker when we were sick. She took us to Mass every Sunday. This is the confusing part. If she is truly a narc, why would she do these things? She did not play with us, read stories, or do much else other than stay in the house cleaning and doing laundry. She did not have friends or interact socially very often, and only with my father. She would put down other people terribly. There was always something wrong with the neighbor, teacher, priest, and especially any friends I had. Sounds familiar, all of it. It was clearly understood in our house that if you make any mistakes, God forbid any of us got pregnant, you were out and would not be supported. And out forever until you begged to come back. Fear led all us girls to drink at very early ages, although remarkably we did well enough in life. I can remember so clearly how Mom used guilt to control us by putting her hands over her face and just crying when we supposedly let her down. Oh my gosh, the guilt was awful. I remember just doing anything I could, apologizing over and over to get her love back. Yeah, she's a manipulative, covert narcissist, using a combination of isolation and religion and fear and threats to control. My question is how to unravel the confusion. How can one care for their children this well yet still have this dark side? Because it's not really caring for you. It's just another narcissistic string. So what you're considering just day-to-day caring and feeding and clothing, that's what they're supposed to do. That's her job. Stop giving them credit for what they're supposed to be doing. She uses that she fed you well and clothed you and took care of you as some kind of guilt trip? As opposed to what? Like I've said before, what do you want, a cookie? That's your job. What did you have kids for? To abuse them? So you get to guilt me because you did the right thing sometimes? You give the narcissist far too much credit than they deserve. I've said this over and over and over again. She cared equally well for her grandchildren when they were little. What's going on here? Perfect example. I submitted an audio recording to you of a phone call with my mother titled Narcissistic Recording. Don't bring up the past. Oh, yeah. I can see her as narc now, but there was a time not long ago I would have considered her behavior as loving. It's all control. It's not love. It's control. Loving by feeding you and clothing, that's her job. Don't you do that for your kids? You guilt them over feeding them and clothing them? Why are you giving them credit for shit you do without even thinking? The reason it's unraveling now is because your subconscious is like, why am I giving her credit for this shit? The shit I do every day without question, wouldn't even think twice about. Yet for some reason, because she did it, she can hold some kind of guilt control over me. As opposed to what? Letting me starve to death? Well, there are some pretty serious consequences even when we were kids for that. In the call, she says, my son needs to apologize to her for his own good, but of course I know better. And if you remember, this is the phone call where she was bitching about the college-age son didn't go to class when he stayed there for a week. Instead, he did, and is demanding this apology because it's all about control. It's all phony. It's all phony. It's all fake. It's none of her business. And being that, I believe you purchased homes for her and your sisters as well, and other things. Like this woman is she's moved on from being from a covert narcissist. She's actually pretty overt at this point. Because that phone call we heard was pretty overt narcissism right out there in front of your face. I have to listen to it frequently and read the comments to avoid getting back in contact. If there is an easy way to unravel a covert narc's behavior and try to have others understand you are not the crazy person. It bothers me so much that my sisters are still so enmeshed with her and how crippling it is for them. I have no relationship with any of them anymore because I'm the scapegoat. I haven't seen or read very often that narc mothers exhibit such caring behavior to their children when they're young. I hope this makes sense. I happily made a donation. Looking forward to your insight, Dawn. Loving behavior? Feeding you? Is loving behavior? Feeding, okay? Only with a narcissist is feeding you loving behavior. That's your problem. You have the wrong idea with what loving behavior is for a mother, and you're a mother. At least in regards to yourself. I mean, you said you worshiped. That's not normal to worship your mother. Worship like a god. Worship the ground she walks on. Do you see this? Do you see the control? Do you see even in your own language that you're not picking up? What you set up, the dynamic you set up with this woman. Because she fed you and took you to church? And she took care of you when you were sick? That's what they're supposed to do. My mother cooked. My mother could cook. When I got sick, my mother took care of me. When I got legitimately sick, and I would get legitimately, violently ill sometimes when I was a kid. That's what you're supposed to do. That's not love. That's responsibility. Love, okay, love is playing, doing the things she didn't do. Play with you, spend time with you. Not manipulate. That's love, not manipulating you. You're convinced, you're confusing what they're supposed to do with love. And that's really your biggest problem. Because let me tell you something, there was no love in that phone call where she's bitching about your son like that. It was all me, 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 me. It was one of the worst manipulative fucking calls, one of the most aggravating calls I ever heard. And that was a short one. She hasn't exhibited caring behavior. Anything she did was to gain supply and guilt control. Period. Period. It wasn't love. It was just what she was supposed to do. So, thank you so much for another contribution and story. I really appreciate it. I hope this helps. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to help it succeed, keep expanding and growing, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you, this all goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email link in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance.